What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for July 2nd, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. We have a big show today, but it is Tuesday, so let's start with a little motivation / positivity. And I saw this quote on a good friend of mine's Facebook page a couple weeks ago, and it was the end of the school year, and I guess at his kid's school, like all schools, they were giving out end of the year awards. Well, his kids were feeling a little down that they did not receive any awards. And kudos to my friend for not calling the school and saying, how come my kid didn't get an award? Use it as a good life lesson, good teachable moment, which I just admire. This is an awesome piece of parenting. But the quote was from Kurt Vonnegut. And the quote goes like this: being good at things is not the point of doing them. And I thought that was just a great message for kids, especially elementary age kids. And he talked through with them, found out what they enjoyed about the school year. Was it a good school year? And it comes out, yes, just because you're not the best at something does not mean, one, you shouldn't do it, or two, that it was a waste. And I really think that's a great message for kids. And I admire him for not doing what a lot of people do today and call the school and blame. And this is coming from me as an educator. How come my kid? Because you know what? Your kid was not the best. Like, if the award was best math student of the year, only one person can get the best math student of the year. But instead of going that way and the participation trophy route, he had an honest, real talk with his kids about that. And the point of doing things is not being good at them. Do you enjoy it? Did you have fun? Did you have a good school year? And I think that's a great lesson for all of us in anything. Do you enjoy what you're doing? Because if you do, you don't necessarily have to be the best. Enjoy life. Life is too short to focus on being the best at this and being the top and not being able to do what you like because you're so focused on being the best or being so good at something. And I think we can all take something from that. And it doesn't matter what part of your life. I keep going back to my golf game. I am never going to be Tiger Woods. I am never going to be on the PGA Tour. Hell, I might never break 100 again at this rate. But I enjoy golfing. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. The point of me golfing is not to be the next Tiger Woods. It's to go out, have fun, and enjoy being outside and enjoy the game. And I think that's just such a great message for everybody, but especially for kids. Just your point is, if you're having fun, keep doing it. Because the truth of the matter is, the more I golf, the better I'm going to get at it. And maybe I will break 100 someday. I don't know. Probably not. And I think but again, it's a good message for kids. And it's with anything. Like when I first started doing the podcast, I was terrible. I listen back to some of those early episodes of Back to the Future and I cringe. And I mean, there's sometimes now I listen back to this day in Philly sports history and I cringe like, oh my God, what am I doing? But I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. Now, am I getting better the more I do it? Yes. And I think that was my friend's point to his kids. Okay, keep doing it. You had fun in school. You enjoy school. You know what the bar is now. Work your way toward it. And I think it's a good balance of some of the things we've been talking about working hard and dedication, but at the same time, be sure you're enjoying them. And I think that could be your job too. There are times throughout the school year where I hate my job. I absolutely hate it. I'm like, why am I in education? And then there are those moments that remind me, okay, I do enjoy this, because you get so caught up in tunnel vision and having blinders on that you sometimes forget to look at the big picture. And that is something we definitely have talked about here on Tuesday. But I just really thought that was a great quote for him to share. The point of doing things is, or being good at things is not the point of doing them. And I think to give that to elementary age kids was just very, very a good parenting moment. And it's the same thing I tell my kids. Okay, you're not there yet. Keep working hard at it. And it's easy to get caught up into, well, wow, no. Like sometimes real life is the best teacher for all of us. So next time you're kind of feeling down about something, think about my golf game and how I'll never break 100. But in all seriousness, just remember the point, or being good at things is not the point of doing them. Do what you enjoy, because life is way too short to just get hung up and focused on the minutia of everything and not being able to really see the big picture and just to enjoy life, because we're only here for a short time. Let's have some fun while we're here. And that is today's Tuesday motivation / positivity. Hopefully you're able to take something away from that. But really just a great shout out to my boy who is crushing the parent game. But that I thought was just perfect, because I do think it's relevant for adults as well. All right, let's break down some more Sixers. And as I had time to really dive in and look at what Daryl Morey and the Sixers did in the past 24 hours or so, made me realize that a soft cap is super confusing. You need a PhD in order to understand the NBA salary cap. But I think, self-taught, by the way, but I think I was able to figure some things out. So I incorrectly yesterday said the Kelly Oubre contract did not count toward the Sixers salary cap. I think the Eric Gordon, it's weird. I don't think it counts against the hard part of their cap, but it counts toward getting toward the salary floor that they have to hit. But the Oubre is an exception. So it does count against their cap. However, they're allowed to go over. So now that they've signed Maxey, which, by the way, shout out to Tyrese Maxey for his 5-year, $204 million extension. Well deserved. That dude totally earned it. If you go back to when draft day in 2020 in the bubble, and just like he said he was going to do the work, he put in the work, and now he is certainly one of the best players in the league. But back to the salary cap, and so Oubre's contract does count, but because they're going to sign him to one of their exceptions, which is why, like I said, you need a PhD, they are able to go over their salary cap number, I think, without penalty as well. So I just wanted to make sure I'm giving you the correct information. And like I said, the whole NBA salary cap is just very, very confusing. But no real big signings yesterday, with the exception of Maxey signing his extension. Paul George, there's been a lot of opinions on both sides of this, and I've been very clear it was not my number one choice, but I guess the way the board played out and the way free agency played out, Daryl Morey and the Sixers did exactly what they needed to do. That was the right move, and arguably the best free agent on the market. They have to do something to compete. It was not the greatest free agent class, but they did the move they had to make. And so far, there's still a couple moves left that they need to do. But I mean, they're doing, like, that's what they have to do. And the big part I keep taking away from this is not only did they not mortgage the future with these ridiculous contracts, they still have all their first round picks. So they were able to get Paul George, not necessarily for a trade, but just by spending Josh Harris's money. Josh Harris has enough money that who cares? Why not? So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. And this is going to kind of turn into a Daryl Morey appreciation post, but I dove in and did some research yesterday. And since he came in 2020, I don't know why there's been so much negativity. I think because he has a different personality maybe than what we're used to, and the fact that between Sam Hinkie, Brett Brown, and Brian Colangelo, there's just so much mismanagement of the team and essentially Joe's career. But here's the situation that Daryl Morey came into. Doc Rivers was his coach, and I've made it perfectly clear how I feel about Doc Rivers, and I do think that the Milwaukee Bucks will not be a threat in the East while Doc Rivers is the coach. I think you can bank that just because Doc's going to Doc. So Doc Rivers was a coach. He came in. He didn't re-sign Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris already had that contract when Daryl Morey came in, so he had to deal with that. I completely forgot about this until I was doing the research. He had to undo the Al Horford trade, which hurt some of their draft capital. He had to get Al Horford out of here. Like, that was just a horrible free agent signing, which didn't work out, and it was not his, but he had to undo that mess. He had to deal with Ben Simmons basically quitting, which still fires me up that people are like, hey, maybe bring back Ben Simmons. The Sixers need a defender who can pass. I would never. It's easy to say, and not that I would do it, but I'd be hard-pressed to be a Sixers fan if they brought back Ben Simmons. But he was able to deal him for an all-star Hall of Fame caliber player. Now, Harden didn't necessarily work out, and probably a good move by Daryl Morey to not give him the max extension, to be completely honest. And Daryl Morey put his relationship, a personal relationship, basically on the line, and all of that to make sure the Sixers weren't hurt. And I know everybody's like, oh, Daryl, but I mean, think about that. Think about the job that he's done. And this is really the first offseason where he has the flexibility with draft picks and salary cap space. And I have to say, I mean, I feel as though he's crushing it. Based on the moves that are out there, Daryl Morey has crushed it. So, yes, this has turned into a Daryl Morey appreciation post, but I mean, if you really break it down and look, you take his past at Houston aside, I'm talking just what he's done with the Sixers, he's had to dig through a ton of shit. So shout out to Daryl Morey, who finally in his first offseason where he doesn't have to deal with any type of drama or shit left from him from the previous regime, he's crushing it so far. Now, that needs to translate onto the court, but I think at this point, the moves that he's made so far have gotten the Sixers into a position to be a top 3 team minimum in the East. And yes, I know, oh, if they stay healthy. Yeah, well, you can say that about anybody. And I know the track record is not that good right now, but he's got the right pieces. And everybody's saying, oh, the big 3, that's not really how you win now in the NBA. But this big 3, they all fit together and have different skill sets. So it's not like you have 2 alphas that are going to score. You don't have this. You have Maxey, you have Joe, and then Paul George. It's up to Nick Nurse to fit that in, which, by the way, Nick Nurse was a great signing by Daryl Morey. So, yes, this is a Daryl Morey appreciation post. I take back. I can admit that I was wrong so far. And, I mean, it could all blow up. But even if it blows up and doesn't work out, the Sixers are still, as of right now, still set up to be good a couple years down the road. We're not going back to that purgatory era, which is very, very important to a Sixers fan like me. So I'm willing to admit that I was wrong. I didn't have the faith in Daryl Morey, and I think when I broke it down and really looked at what he had to deal with, I was wrong. I'm able to be a big person and say I was wrong about that. Now, it needs to translate on the court. That's a whole other issue, but for now, I apologize, Daryl Morey. I apologize. You're not a liar. You're not a liar. And finally, Sixers, and how this dude keeps stealing money, I have no idea. Tobias Harris, $52 million from the Pistons. I don't get it. Phillies are in Chicago tonight. Michael Mercado is on the mound. And I think until everybody comes up, we need to keep track of what the Braves are doing. The Braves are at home against the Giants. Phillies are entering today with an 8-game lead over the Braves. So hopefully they can get that offense rolling or continue to roll the way they were. And Michael Mercado can, at least because it's the first time he's seen some of these teams, can pitch well tonight. I've been telling you about the John Kruk Philly Goat shirt. John Kruk is my spirit animal. You got to go get this shirt. 10% of your sales go to the Battle Brothers Foundation, which they do awesome things, I should say, for our veterans. Get the Toxic Relationship with Philly Sports shirt because I feel like I just went on a rant about how great Daryl Morey is. You can call it Stockholm Syndrome. You can call it going back to the Crazy Ex, toxicity, whatever you want to call it. I'm okay with, but I have a toxic relationship with Philly sports, and the John Kruk is my spirit animal shirt. That shirt, 10% of your sale will go to Battle Brothers Foundation. They're just an awesome organization. Do the research on them. They're doing great things for our vets. And be sure to use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order, and buy some shoes while you're there. Why not? Do a little 4th of July shopping. But that's phillygoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. Michkov is officially a Flyer, meaning he will play for the Flyers next year. He signed his 3-year entry-level deal, and that was really the biggest news on the Flyers free agent front. It's been quiet so far. They re-signed Garnett Hathaway. They re-signed Eric Johnson, signed a few guys for their AHL team. But really, everything they're doing is just adding some depth to their minor leagues. And I really think they're focused and dead set now on the 2025 offseason. And I know a lot of people are bitching and complaining that they're not doing more. But Danny Briere has gone on record, and he said it again the other day, be patient. They're still digging through a lot of the mess that they were left. And I think you get Michkov adjusted to the NHL game, see what they have with Fedotov as goalie, whatever you need to do, and just figure out what you need now going into the 2025 offseason. So I'm okay with what he's doing. I keep telling you, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Just because Michkov came over a couple years early doesn't mean magically he brings with him a ton of cap space. But the other big news yesterday was we know that they're going to probably open the season October 12th in Calgary, and then the home opener, Michkov's debut, is October 19th. I didn't see who they played, but everybody just needs to trust, to borrow a line from the Sixers, trust Danny Briere and Keith Jones's process. They're trying to do it the right way to build a sustainable, quality Stanley Cup contender year after year, and I'm all here for it. Okay, today we're going to go back to 1993, and I vividly remember this entire, how many other hour long it was, day and a half, 2 days, or whatever you want, I guess 18 hours. But the Phillies and the Padres were scheduled to play a doubleheader. The first game was a makeup from April 21st, which was a rainout. But what transpired over the next 18 hours was record-breaking and historic. Game 1 was scheduled to start at 4:35. As fate would have it, there was a rain delay. Did not start till 5:45. There was another rain delay in the third inning at 6:29 with the score tied at 1. That rain delay was a little bit longer. Play resumed at 9:06, so they're really trying to get both of these games in because it was the last time San Diego was going to be in Philadelphia for the season. So it resumed at 9:06, and then at 9:06 there was another rain delay in the fifth inning with the Padres leading. When play finally resumed, the Padres won Game 1 5-2. That game ended at 1:03 a.m. So technically we're on to July 3rd. But we'll keep it all on July 2nd for right now. They did decide to start Game 2, like I said, because the Padres were not going to be back in Philadelphia after that, and I don't even know if they were back on the East Coast. So they started Game 2 at 1:28 a.m., and Padres jumped on Jose De Leon, led 5-0 after heading into the bottom of the fourth. And then the Phillies kind of started chipping away. The bullpen held. And, of course, the Phillies battled back, tied the game, and as luck would have it, the game went into extra innings. And Mitch Williams pitched the 10th for the Phillies and was forced to bat basically because there was nobody better for the Phillies to pinch hit for him for. So Incaviglia led off the bottom of the 10th with a walk. Jim Eisenreich singled. Darren Dalton struck out, and then Mitch Williams hit the game winner into, I think he shot it between short and third base. I remember just watching the highlights of the game, and that's when Harry Callis famously called him Mitchy Poo. Did not make the nickname tournament, but Mitchy Poo won the game at 4:40 a.m. It was the latest game to ever end and the latest game to ever start. So Game 2 was the latest they ever started a Major League Baseball game. And then the ending at 4:40 was the latest a game ever ended. But it was the Phillies who did pull out the win in Game 2, 6-5, which was a big win for them because they were slumping at the time. And we'll get more into their slumping tomorrow. But on this day in 1993, the Phillies and Padres played a doubleheader that was scheduled to start at 4:35 p.m. and did not stop until 4:40 a.m. So I guess my math's a little off. I guess that's 12 hours, not 18. But you get the point. And then they were scheduled to play at 1:35 the next day, which they did play at 1:35. But this was all about Mitch Williams getting that game winner in the 10th. And really I remember this game specifically because we didn't have Prism, and this game was on, both games were on Prism. And I remember listening to it on the radio, staying up in my bedroom, listening to, I did not miss any games, whether I listened to them or watched them during this 93 season. And I just remember being tired the next day, but it was well worth it as the Phillies and Padres split a doubleheader. Padres winning game 1, Phillies winning game 2 that ended at 4:40 a.m. when Mitchie Poo hit the game-winning single in the 10th to give the Phillies the 6-5 lead. All right, let's move on to the Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament, and let's recap yesterday's matchups and 2 blowouts. In the Balboa region, it was the Minister of Defense, Reggie White, beating Fred Carter, the Mad Dog. 85% of the vote went to the Minister of Defense, so he will move on in the Balboa region. And then over in the Schuylkill region, it's just as well, but Puddinhead Jones soundly defeated Joel the Process Embiid. 91% of you went with Puddinhead, and like I said, it's just as well because Joe has a season to focus on. He should not be worried about our nickname tournament. So it was the Minister of Defense and Puddinhead Jones moving on in the Balboa and Schuylkill regions, respectively. Sticking with our tournament now today, we have 2 bigger matchups. First, one of our other number 1 seeds, the number 1 seed out of the Ben Franklin region, the Broad Street Bullies, are taking on the number 16 seed Speedy Mars. And the Broad Street Bullies, what do we need to say about them? It basically was the nickname for those Stanley Cup winning teams in the 70s. And that 70s Flyers team, they were one of the most feared teams in the league. They went and beat the Soviet Red Army team, went to 3 Stanley Cups, winning 2 of them. The name, however, was given to them by the Philadelphia Bulletin sports writer Jack Chevalier. I'll get it. And it was given to him based on the style of play and the location of the spectrum. Originally, in the original news article that he called them the Broad Street Bullies after a game against Atlanta, he called them the Bullies of Broad Street, but the editor kind of switched it around, got rid of some words, and the Broad Street Bullies was born, and it is the perfect nickname to sum up those Flyers team. They are taking on the number 16 seed Speedy Mars. Speedy is a Manayunk native and a local college and high school hoops coaching legend. He coached both LaSalle's women and men's team, led the men's team to 4 NCAA tournament appearances, coached NBA players Lionel Simmons, Doug Overton, Randy Woods, Tim Legler, and Razul Butler. The L Train, by the way, just barely didn't make the tournament. He was like the 9th team that was in, for those of you who are wondering. But Speedy coached at Roman Catholic and St. Joe's Prep as well. He is the winningest coach in the Philadelphia Catholic League. He has won over 1,000 games at all levels and all stops in his career. And the best part is he was given the nickname Speedy, not because he was speedy, but because he was one of the slowest kids in the neighborhood, so they called him Speedy, and the name stuck. So now it's up to you. Who's got the better Philly, or which is the better Philly sports nickname? Is it the Broad Street Bullies or Speedy Mars? Call or text me on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. That'll get you in, get your vote in, and anything else Philly sports related off your chest. There is a ton going on, so I'm looking forward to the voice and text line to be lighting up. But what's a better sports nickname? Broad Street Bullies or Speedy Mars due to his lack of speed? Get your votes in. Social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram, Facebook, Instagram. Text me, email me, whatever you got to do. But most importantly, subscribe to the YouTube channel, even if you're listening on a podcast, because that will help grow and get us more airplay and more time on other people's feeds. All right, the next matchup is a battle of darkness out of the Cheesesteak region. we have the number 8 seed, lights out Brad Lidge, taking on the number 9 seed, Shady McCoy. Like I said, it's a battle of darkness. All right, let's start with the 8 seed, Brad Lidge. He was a Phillies closer, spent 4 years in Philly, has over 100 saves, including going 41 for 41 in 2008, the year that the Phillies won the World Series. Also won or saved all of his appearances, or got all of his saves in the postseason as well, including the last out against Eric Hinsky to win the World Series. He was on the mound when the Phillies clinched the division. I think what is often forgotten about Brad Lidge and what makes that whole 2008 story so special is the last time prior to that he was in the postseason, he imploded for the Astros in the 05 NLCS as well as the World Series, and kind of was run out of town and wasn't necessarily right after that. And then when the Phillies signed him, I completely forgot about this as well. He tore his meniscus in spring training, so he had to have surgery similar to what I guess JT Realmuto had, and didn't come back until the opening day that year for the Phillies. So the fact that he went 41 for 41 just a few weeks after tearing his meniscus is great. He got the name Lights Out from a Houston radio station that once he became the closer, they had this big production and everything. But he was certainly lights out for the Phillies in 2008. And I just imagine today, if he was a closer, just how great the production value would be. So that's our number 8 seed in the Cheesesteak region. Lights out Brad Lidge. He is taking on the number 9 seed, LaShawn McCoy, a.k.a. Shady. Shady was a second-round pick for the Eagles in 2009 out of Pitt. He is a Harrisburg native, went to the same high school as another Eagles running back, Ricky Waters, Bishop McDevitt. He is the Eagles' all-time leading rusher with 6,792 yards. Spent 6 seasons here until Chip Kelly unceremoniously traded him to Buffalo for Kiko frickin' Alonso, which I will say ultimately ended up helping us win the Super Bowl because they moved him for the pieces that allowed us to get Carson Wentz, but I digress. Shady threw in 518 receiving yards and 518 receptions for 3,900 yards. He's third for the Eagles in rushing touchdowns, number 9 overall. But my lasting memory is always whenever he would score and then playing DMX, y'all gonna make me lose my mind. And he would always do it looks sort of like when I do it, like a hula dance, but it was sort of the nice little vibe when he would score. But I still got to question what could have been with Shady if Chip Kelly wasn't a dumbass and traded him to Buffalo for Kiko Alonso. Now, the Shady nickname, Shady got the name from his mom, and his mom gave it to him because as a kid, he would have massive mood swings. He would go from being happy and laughing to all of a sudden being upset and crying. So she called him Shady. But that is our number 9 seed out of the Cheesesteak region. Now it's your turn. Get your votes in. Who's got the best Philly sports nickname? Is it the Broad Street Bullies or Speedy Morris? Lights out Brad Lidge, Shady McCoy, 267-495-8531. That is the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get your votes in any way you can. Social media, all of that. But is it the Broad Street Bullies versus Speedy Morris? And then Lights Out Lidge versus Shady McCoy? Who's got the better Philly sports nickname? That Lights Out versus Shady is going to be a good one. Get your votes in any way you can get them to me, and spread the word and subscribe to the YouTube channel. On this day in 1993, the Phillies and Padres split a doubleheader. Game 2 didn't start till 1:28 a.m. It ended at 4:40 a.m. This was all on July 3rd, but since it started on July 2nd, that's why we're covering it today. We'll have more on the 93 Phillies tomorrow. Get me your thoughts on Daryl Morey. Am I getting sucked in again like I always seem to do? I don't know. I just think the dude got a bad rap, and he's the easy person to blame based on the transgressions of the previous regime. But maybe I'm an idiot. Let me know what you're thinking. Phillies look to keep the winning going in Chicago tonight. Remember, being good at things is not the point of doing them. It's a great lesson for kids. It's a great lesson for adults. And just remember, enjoy it because life is way too short. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for July 2nd, 2024. I'm Jim Montgomery. Until next time, I'll see you when I see you.